Okay, hi Sarah, how's the streaming?
The stream is ready. Looks good. Just make sure the sound works. Give me 1 second. Everything looks good. Let me shut my door here.
Okay, if things are good, I will call the meeting to order, our June regular meeting at 6:02. Sarah, you want to take the roll?
Yes. Bowman?
Present.
Boyd?
Here.
Bugs?
Present.
Serna Prado?
Present.
Cresswell?
Present.
Hernandez?
Present.
Hillbrands?
Here.
Ma here. Martinsek?
Here.
MacArthur? Okay, if you see Latrice join, let me know. Roberto?
Present.
Powers?
Here.
And Zen.
Here.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Sorry, I was just going to say really quickly that Latrice said that she may not be able to make it because she's having car issues and she's going to be stuck there.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you for letting us know. That was Zen as a second. Okay. Bowman?
Yay.
Boyd?
Yay.
Bugs?
Yes.
Serna Prado?
Yay.
Cresswell?
Yay.
Hernandez?
Yay.
Hillbrands?
Yay.
Ma, yay. Martinsek?
Yay.
Menjivar?
Yay.
Powers?
Yay.
And Zen.
Yay.
Okay, now we have to, approval of minutes. I will do those as 3 motions. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th, 2021 LSC regular meeting.
I second.
Is that
Bowman.
Okay, thank you. Bowman?
Yeah. Yay.
Boyd?
Yay.
Bugs?
Yes.
Serna Prado?
Yes.
Cresswell?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Hillbrands?
Yay.
Ma? Yay. Martinsek?
Yes.
Menjivar?
Yay.
Powers?
Yay.
Zen.
Yes.
Okay, that's 12. And then I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 17th, 2021 special LSC meeting. The second?
Second.
Thank you. Bowman?
Yay.
Boyd?
Yay.
Bugs?
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Serna Prado?
Yay.
Cresswell?
Yay.
Hernandez?
Yay.
Hillbrands?
Yay.
Ma? Yay. Martinsek?
Yay.
Menjivar?
Yay.
Powers?
Yay.
Zen.
Yes.
All right, it was 11 out of 11. And one more, real quick. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 19th, 2021 emergency LSC meeting.
Second.
Second.
We all second.
I'll just put some, oh, y'all. Okay. Roll call. Bowman.
Abstain.
Okay. Boyd.
Yay.
Bugs.
Yes.
Serna Prado.
Yay.
Cresswell.
Yay.
Hernandez.
Yay.
Hillbrands.
Yay.
Ma, yay. Martinsek.
Yay.
Menjivar.
Yay.
Powers.
Yay.
Then.
Yes.
And Latrice is still not on the call. If any, like I said, I know she's having car troubles, but if anyone sees her come in, please let me know. I'll hand it over to you, Cassie.
Okay, I think we will actually do 8E first. And Elaine, do you want to start?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. In recognition, Denia Boyd, in recognition of your leadership, excellent service, and positive impact on the Jones School community as an LSC student representative, the LSC would like to honor your accomplishments today. You have on hand a token of our appreciation. On behalf of the Jones Local Schools Council, we present you with an award of excellence for outstanding service. Thank you for your work for the Jones Local School Council. As a graduating senior, we have no doubt that you will represent your family, yourself, and the Jones community well. Best wishes to you with your college endeavors. We, as a local school council, salute you.
Thank you. Am I supposed to like open the thing now or?
If you could show the people, that's up to you though, no pressure, whatever you have agency.
This is the bag.
We need some background music.
Sorry, my microphone. Okay. Okay, this is awkward. I wanted to say thank you. Yeah, thank you. Like,
I think Mr. Slater has a few words to say too, so I'll hand the mic to him.
All right, where did Denia go? Did she leave us? I mean, I know I might not be the most handsome, but she didn't have to, go nowhere.
I'm still here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm listening. Sorry.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still
All right,
here.
so I'm gonna go ahead and get going so I can get on out the way. So when we're talking about leadership, service, and strength of Denia Boyd, we're talking about the veracity of a sojourner truth. Ain't I a woman and deserving of equal rights? We're talking about the courage of a Harriet Tubman, a conductor on the Underground Railroad, risking her livelihood to help others. We're talking about the relentlessness of an Ida Bell Wells Barnett, publishing and vocalizing at the lynching of Black people non-stop. We're talking about the tenacity of a Daisy Bates to stand firm and insist on the integration of Little Rock, Arkansas Central High School by the Little Rock Nine. We're talking about the perseverance of a Fannie Lou Hamer who was beat within inches of her life, but continued to work with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party for rights of Black people. We're talking about the vigilance and intensity of an Angela Davis and a Kathleen Cleaver to guide the Black Panther Party of self-defense, all rolled up into a Denia Boyd. Your legacy of speaking truth to power and shining light on microaggressions will be remembered, respected, appreciated, modeled, documented, and hopefully imitated and duplicated. For that, I am grateful for your leadership, service, and strength. Thank you, Denia Boyd, for being you.
Beautiful.
Okay. Um, um, thank you so much. I just really don't know what to say. It's an honor that you think of me that way. And you know that I can be compared to those people. I hope I can live up to that. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Mr. Slater. Thank you, Denia. It's been really awesome to serve with you. And I think I speak for the other parents that many of us, would not have run if not for your words that came before us being on this council. Does anyone have any more words for our council member recognition? Okay, I think we'll do public participation next. And Raquel Don, is Raquel on here? I don't think she is. So we will, is KK on? Yes.
I am, thank you.
And I'll try to hold up something at 2 minutes 30, so you know how much time you have.
Thank you. Denia, we'll just all start too, and just congratulations on your honor. The comments I have 3 points I just wanted to share tonight in case some of you may not know who I am. My name is KK Nielsen Cleland. I am I'm a parent of a senior who is graduating, and I've had 2 former students at Jones who have left and have gone on to college. This is probably my last time to see you all. I first want to commend a number of the LSC members who have been giving of their time. But I also have 3 constructive pieces of conversation I'd like to share. One is I have been listening to many of the finance meetings. My suggestion is, in my opinion, is that the conversations are overstepping your role as an LSC. I believe you are micromanaging a conversation that is unnecessary. I believe in due diligence, and I believe wholeheartedly in being thorough and thoughtful, but I think the LSC's role is a primarily consultatory role, consulting, not necessarily driving the operations. And I guess we disagree, Cassie, by your face, but we disagree. I agree. I don't believe that the LSC should be making operational decisions. I believe that the administration and the faculty and the staff have demonstrated incredible competence. Again, there's always room for improvement. There's always ways to do things better. And there should always be a good, thoughtful dialogue. But having 4 and 5 hour meetings on school nights when you've got students or individuals with families, I believe it's overstepping. I absolutely believe wholeheartedly that the role should be as counseling and supportive. Ask the administration, what is important to you? How can we help? I believe you're solving problems that are not necessarily problems. Number 2, I believe it's also important to recognize that the dismissive tone that has come across in these meetings is unthoughtful and inappropriate. I would suggest there be a very, very conscientious effort to be more thoughtful and more professional in your interactions with one another. I have found it to be very disheartening to see some of the condescending tone that has gone back and forth. And my final note is, and I alluded to this already, but these meetings are unnecessarily long. I've heard many of you suggest that, thank you, Cassie. I know that you have said, well, we like to be thorough at the beginning. It is inefficient, but you will never find good, thoughtful leaders who have full-time jobs, want to raise their family and do this. You're asking people to stay far beyond what is appropriate and good stewardship of people's time. That's my only comment.
Thanks, KK. Next, is Raquel here yet? No. Carol, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am. My name is Carol Deely. I'm a parent of a Jones Jr. And tonight I wanted to speak about the Jones principal evaluations. I know that I asked Cassie about that, and she said she wasn't able to share it, but Dr. Powers was more than willing to share it with me, and I'm greatly concerned, as I have been since I started watching these meetings. And the past 13 years, Dr. Powers has received a rating of at least 3.5 out of 4, which is an excellent rating. And then this year, with this new LSC that began in, I don't know, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, he received a 1.7 out of 4 rating. And I simply can't understand that, how the change of a few people on the LSC and all of a sudden we have the worst principal in the city. So all I can say is that there's some good work being done in this LSC. The equity work is, I mean, so many good things are happening there, but it's just tarnished by how insulting you are to the principal and to many of us that speak up at these meetings. I mean, we see the faces that you make, and you don't respond to a lot of our questions. And you were, as I said, my first time I spoke this was supposed to be a collaborative group, and I haven't seen that collaboration. And it seems to me that in a very, very difficult year because of the pandemic, to have a new LSC come in and be overbearing and incessant demands is overreaching, as KK just said. And the micromanagement of the budget was unprecedented. Saying all that, hopefully one budget is under your belt and there'll be smoother course next year. And I have the local school council resource book, and I like it because I had to do that because I was always referred to that when I asked questions. Just because all these things are listed in here does not mean that. I guess my question is, does it really mean that you need to do every single one of these things in this 200-page book and drive our administration to the brink of exhaustion? So,
Can you wrap up, Carol?
yes, but I'd like a response.
Thanks. We have one more speaker on. If people have questions for Carol, go ahead right now, but we'll move on to the next speaker before we have council discussion. Erica, are you ready? I'll hold up a little thing at 2:30.
Sounds good. My name is Erica Carley. I'm a parent of a Jones freshman, and I wanted to start first by thanking the LSC for their time dedicated to equity and for responding to issues raised by students, just like you've done with Denia. I also agree with you that the administration could do a better job of presenting an improvement plan every month that addresses the level of overall progress being made at the school. I started tuning into LSC meetings when I learned that the Jones LSC was seeming to have a political agenda that sided with the CTU as it relates to if/when to begin in-person education. And I wrote a letter to the LSC questioning their actions, which they've ignored. And I've watched them ignore many of the public comments mentioned at meetings in recent months. I have now listened to almost every single meeting since January. And when I heard that our principal, who has helped elevate the school to higher and higher rankings statewide and nationally, received a rating of 1.7 out of 4 by the LSC, which is considered developing. It's basically a rating it's typically reserved for new principals. When he has historically received ratings of 3.5 and above, I knew I had to speak up. So the things I'd like to share this evening are as follows, and where I'd like to see some changes made. Number 1, length of meetings. LSC has demanded of the administration and others an inordinate number of hours each week in meeting time. These meetings are on personal time in the evenings away from families, and they go almost till 10 o'clock in the morning, or 10 o'clock p.m. rather, when administration needs to wake up the next day and run the school, which, by the way, is their job. Number 2, unending requests to administration. The LSC's relentless requests of administration have been extremely taxing on an already stressed staff. I don't need to explain what this 1 year and a half has been like for everyone, but that doesn't stop this LSC for their demands for data and more data from years past. The administration should be focused on our students, not on dropping everything to meet the seemingly impossible demands of the LSC. Number 3 is the disrespect for administration. The manner in which many of these members treat administration and Principal Powers especially cannot be ignored. There is an unfounded and innate sense of suspicion that you all seem to have for this administration. The decades of experience Dr. Powers has amassed in education and in Jones specifically should be respected. Dr. Powers oftentimes gets interrupted and his comments dismissed. The tone is oftentimes combative as well as condescending, even threatening, while in return, Powers and his administration have been very patient, respectful, and professional in their tone. Number 4, extending beyond the purview of an LSC. I've noticed a lot of questions and inquiries about unsolicited input about things that should be reserved for the administration: hiring of staff, asking about salaries, justification of jobs, class size, and textbook selection, to name a few. Oftentimes, I see members scrutinizing every painstaking detail. Many of these questions asked were no doubt covered in the 9 mandatory trainings you had to complete, and yet administration is tasked in answering them. Number 5, over-scrutinization of the budget. Principal Powers has been dedicated to running the school responsibly historically, and it appears to me that this LSC would like to spend even the reserves that Powers has set aside responsibly. Holding some money back is a smart move in a district with at times unpredictable funding commitments, while the chairperson of this LSC calls these reserves a slush fund. They're also pushing to hire a college counselor, as if our diverse counseling team of 6 isn't doing their job. These are just 2 examples. Administration typically leads budget. Yep. As a freshman parent, as are many of these new LSC members, I would think that the best plan of supporting a new school would begin with a more balanced approach, getting an understanding of how things are run before adding some suggestions that you've learned. I'd really like to ask for a change in some of these 5 items I just listed. Thank you.
And I don't think I see Raquel. Was Raquel on for a second?
She's saying she didn't see the email. I'll send it again.
Okay.
Hold on.
And Sarah, did you have a comment from, did you want to read the comment from Erica Washington?
Do you have access of it so I could figure out the Raquel thing? Thank you.
This is a comment from Erica Washington, Jones' parent. And let me just read it here. My comment is that it saddens me to see the decline in Black students attending Jones over the years. I wonder what Jones plans to do to recruit, plan on attending high school fairs, reach out to elementary school counselors and admin, or other plans in the works. I would love to know. Jones is going to need to reach outside of its immediate zip code to bring in more Black students. Also, the decline in Black and Brown students taking AP classes is embarrassing and this should be addressed immediately. I had a situation with my son in an AP class this year where he was accused of plagiarizing note-taking while learning virtually. The teacher gave him 3 failing grades and I never received a call or email. He's a straight A student, and if I had not overheard a conversation between him and my daughter, I may still be in the dark and his grade could have been majorly impacted. Thankfully, I found out in time and had a chance to email the teacher myself. Teachers may need more guidance on how to support diverse student populations, but no matter the student, teachers should be willing to reach out to families, not only during parent-teacher conferences, to strengthen the Jones community and build up all of its students. Thank you for your time and attention. Erica Washington, Jones High School College Prep parent, U of I Urbana-Champaign parent, and Daniel Boone Elementary School assistant to the Office of the Counselor. And let's see here. I guess we can add in Raquel later. Okay, our first item is the fee schedule. Oh, sorry, you guys want to have responses? Okay. Okay, Ellen, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, and I think Tim and I are probably going to speak to the same piece, and it looks like Raquel just joined as well. So I'm not sure if this was the case for today because we just developed these norms this morning, but we did put together, sorry, there's a little feedback somewhere, I don't know where. But we did put together some norms for LSC meetings, both for members as well as for public participants. And I think I got emotionally caught up with Danaya's award, and so I think that I neglected to bring this up prior to public participation today. But there are a couple things that we just kind of wanted to bring up that will, I think, help facilitate our conversations and also improve, like I heard from a couple parents just now in public commentary. I think both Erica and Carol and KK, I think, also brought this up, just like concerns about the tone with which we are speaking with each other. And so one way that we can, as a community, build a better space for communication is to set norms. It's a very teachery thing. So that's why it's coming from your teacher members. But I don't know, Kim, did you kind of want to go through some of those? Because I know we had talked about this prior to the meeting.
Yeah, and we can share, I know we shared the doc I'd email to you, everybody, and we can put that so that everybody in the public can see that as well. So Ellen and I kind of met virtually today. We were talking about ways to communicate better and talked about impact versus intent, and what we say sometimes comes across as different. So just a couple of the norms so that we're all kind of clear and everybody in the community is also clear. Monitoring airtime to make sure we have equity of voice. This includes the frequency of speaking as well as the duration of speaking. So while LSC members don't have a timer like public speakers, it's still important for us to monitor that in our airtime to ensure equity of voice, and then focusing on value added. Agreements can be powerful with statements, but it's most useful when an additional piece of support is provided. So just kind of reflecting on ourselves of why are we saying what we're saying? Is it about adding value to conversations? The second norm that we agreed upon, or we've kind of come up with, is using I statements. So it helps to change language from what you are or what you are not doing, and rephrases as I am wondering, I am noticing, I observe that, or I feel that. This additionally allows us to take ownership of our thoughts and ideas in this space and prevents us from inadvertently taking away from another council member's voice by using we to represent more than our individual selves, as well as letting a we replace another council member's voice. Practicing oops, ouch, which may be one we do right now. So practicing the oops, ouch, if you say something that may harm another individual in the meeting space, oops is a way to acknowledge that misspeak and the impact it may have had without causing further harm. These oopses are usually unintentional, but may still have a negative impact. In using oops, follow the format, accept the ouch, acknowledge the harm, apologize, and move on. Likewise, ouch may serve as a way for people to express when impact from a council member may have differed from their intent. And ouch can speak to the impact that you've experienced or that you may have observed another member experiencing. For example, like as a council member, as a teaching staff, as a faculty member, I might say ouch to public participation today just because I felt, that's it, I'll just say ouch, that I was, the impact was hurtful to me. The second to last one was assume positive intention. Everything in LSC should be student-centered decisions. Even when we disagree with ideas and decisions, we must assume these disagreements are not personal, but are in the vein of doing what is best for students, and that may look different to different people. Disagreements are with ideas, not with people. And then the last one is just to be solution oriented. Criticism and debate are natural parts of democracy and decision making. Following critiques with possible solutions and ideas is recommended. So those are kind of the norms that we put together to help the LSC practice within ourselves and with the public. So that's all. That was a lot of time. Sorry, I'm monitoring my airtime now.
Thank you, Kim and Ellen, for working on those. I think they're very helpful. Rachel, do you want to go next? And just one, Raquel, will come back to you after this discussion.
I'll keep my comment quick, and it is a response to all the parents who spoke, but I think I really appreciate Ms. Bowman and Ms. Martinsek bringing in these norms because I think for me, I always feel like I can improve with this. It's like, are we looking at, you know, what's being discussed versus like, you know, separating behavior and like, you know, ideas and debates from individuals. That's something that I think we can all get better at on this council, myself included in that. And I think, you know, the parents are now holding us accountable if you want to think about it that way. But I also felt kind of, you know, I did respond to a number of parents after we unanimously voted on their letter. And some parents responded to me and we had a really great conversation over email, and some parents didn't. And I know that other council members are really responsive too. So I'm just going to say personally, I felt a little bit confused by that comment. I always want to have conversations. And, you know, if you're feeling like someone is ignoring you, they may not be ignoring you. They may just be, they may just disagree with you. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, thank you to all the parents who are speaking and sharing your perspectives. I think that's encouraging others. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from students as well in that respect. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Rachel. Danaya?
Yeah. So I think the norm on the fact of don't assume ill intent is really important right now. Because I mean, and I've said this before in other LSC meetings, I don't think that anybody on the council thinks that Dr. Powers is like a horrible person and like he should be fired and, you know, all this other stuff. And I think that that is maybe the perception coming from a lot of parents. And sort of like, sorry, I forgot who said it. Oh, I think it was Bowman just said, the intent should always be like students first, right? So whenever anybody on the LSE is critiquing Dr. Powers or critiquing something that the school is doing, the only intent is to make it better. And the only intent is to create a better environment for students, right? That's not to say, excuse me, if you hear any background noise, that's not to say that nothing has worked at all ever in the past, right? It's just to say that things should get better. And I don't think that something being different from how it previously was means that it is automatically bad. And then lastly, I wanted to say, just because, like, we need to look outside of ourselves, and just because you as an individual have have a good experience with Dr. Powers for the past number of years does not mean that every single person has. And so that's why we come here, and that's why we have these meetings and try to pass whatever resolutions or, you know, put whatever plans in place to make it better, right? That is, again, not to say that Dr. Powers has been horrible for the past 13 years and you're making it up, but it's to say that we have to look outside of ourselves and think that maybe I, in my position, are experiencing something that people in different positions than me are not experiencing. Yeah.
Thanks, Danaya. Dr. Powers?
Yes, I just wanted to respond to the parent. Was it Mrs. Washington? Okay, thank you very much. I just want to let her know and let everyone know in terms of her recommendations with regard to recruiting. We do recruit citywide. We definitely don't restrict ourselves to any particular area. And in fact, we obviously last year was this school year, I should say, was a real exception with regard to having to do everything remotely. Although we did participate in a number of remote high school fairs, but we attend high school fairs representing probably in the neighborhood of 150 different elementary schools in all parts of the city, and really do reach out to our communities. to try to make sure that students and their families have a great idea in terms of what Jones can provide them, and encourage them to be part of the opportunity that is presented to them. In addition, have utilized and are utilizing our transfer policy and our principal discretion policy to identify and accept students of color who have been underrepresented in recent years with regard to incoming students coming into Jones, whether it be principal discretion with incoming freshmen or transfers primarily with sophomores and juniors. So we are definitely working in those areas to try to beef that up. It doesn't, however, change CPS policy with regard to how selections are made through selective enrollment or CTE. We just have to work within those guidelines. And then finally, again, with regard to Mrs. Washington, again, I deeply regret if the teacher of her student did not respond or did not reach out and provide information. And that's one reason why we as administrators are available pretty much all the time. If somebody has not shared information or has not properly done so, please let us know, because we want to make sure that we're providing that link between teachers and parents if that link is not there. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Powers. And it's encouraging to hear that the school is going to make use of the transfer and principal discretion to increase enrollment of students of color. And it would be helpful to have the long-term data on that and have some of the breakdown of that by race. I think that's available, and I think we've requested it previously as the LSC. I think it was requested actually before we were on the LSC as well, if I'm not mistaken. And so that would be something that I would like to see provided to us.
I don't know that we even retain that kind of information. I'd have to go back and look in the files. Once a student's been admitted, we really don't track just exactly how they came in, whether it's through principal discretion or transfer.
I think I've seen that data published or referred to by the media, so I think it would be helpful to find out if that's possible.
We'll see what we can do.
Thanks. Denaya, do you have an old hand? Okay. And Raquel, would you like to go ahead?
Okay, hello, sorry. I guess the link went to my trash, and I found it. So sorry about that. I just wanted to say that it seems like we have a lot of passionate people here talking about a sensitive subject. And I just want to remind everyone that Dr. Powers nor Jones is responsible for the tier system, which is how children are filtered into select enrollment schools. So I just wanted to say that he's not responsible for that, nor is the school. CPS has designed that to create fairness. Whether we think it's fair, that's our own opinion. And I'm going to move on to my introduction. I am a returning parent. My oldest graduated in 2019. He is a third-year student at NYU and loves it. I have an incoming freshman, and while my son was at Jones, I was on Friends of Jones for 3 years, and I will be returning to Friends of Jones as the vice chair next school year. So I just wanted to let y'all know, because I think one of my responsibilities is to attend these meetings, and I would be interested anyways, since you know, I used to attend them before as well. So that's all. I just wanted to do my introduction and give my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Raquel, and welcome back. And we look forward to working with you. Okay, any other public participation comments? If not, we can move on to fee schedule. We don't have it linked on the agenda, and there were 2 documents, so I wasn't actually sure which one to link. So
Right. So So the first one that doesn't say draft, that's the one that Mr. Voigt sent me. It's not very much different. And so the second one, I think that says draft. Troy, I don't know, are you in the folder? I can try sharing. It's just hard for me to share and do minutes. It says, it's in the 6/1/2021 fee schedule, it says draft. This is, I'm just going to be honest, I haven't put a lot of work into this due to the copious amounts of minutes that we did. So did you find it, Troy?
Yeah, looking for it.
Okay, I can try presenting too. I just wanted to show that it include the language and I guess what I'm asking is maybe we review this more and I'm sorry, I don't have Microsoft Word. So it looks crazy because I had to open it in Docs. Thank you, Troy. That's awesome. So this is we need to vote on we already voted on the tech fee, but we need to vote on all the overall fee. And then I don't know if we're voting on the language this evening or if we wanted to make sure the language is perfect and then get it translated. So this has the $400 general fee. It says tech fee. It says assessed to all non-waiver students and covers technology, including student Chromebooks. So that language has been cleaned up. And you can keep scrolling down, Troy. Thank you. This is the same information that was presented before. And you can keep going. This is the same. Keep going. And then again, this would be on the first page. This are the payment options. So credit cards paid through parent portal, which I think is Aspen, right? So I think we might change that language to say Aspen. And then if you scroll down, Troy, oh yeah, see, it's like, sorry, again, that's things that he had taken note. Oh, okay, this isn't the one that, can you share the one that says draft in that same folder?
Yeah, I think the one I put with the link in the chat there should go to the right one.
There it is. Okay, that's fine. So we had talked about the bullet points are, again, this is not final language. Were Voight's bullets, and I just kind of put some more information. Waive fees, tech fee is waived for all fee waiver students. That's what it said in my minutes. I wasn't sure if that was including both free lunch and reduced lunch, so I needed some clarification on that. There is this clarification that free lunch is 100% waived, but I wanted to maybe, that's only for the $400 fee and the $100 fee. It's not for the sports fees. Those are never waived, right? So I just feel like we need to do some more work on this. And then this is the general language that yes, Dr. Powers.
With regard to the sports fees, students are never denied the opportunity to participate if they cannot pay the activity fee or the sports activity fee.
Right. So it's somehow I need to reflect that on here. And again, they're not waived, but you're not. Yes, go ahead. Mr. Menjivar?
Hey, so I was going to say that the last paragraph, I think, might address that unless you're saying you want to put a clear bullet point. So the last paragraph where it begins with students will not be denied just the participation in any academic, social, or athletic activities or programs due to financial circumstances. And it just strongly recommends those families to reach out to the administration and to Mr. Voigt.
Right. What's not clear to me is if I were reading this as a first-time parent, I wouldn't understand what's waived, assessed to all non-waiver. So I guess the top parts of the form, the general school fee, it does say assessed to all non-waiver, but then, it says assessed. Oh, and it does say it. I'm sorry, it's just in a very dark color on my screen. It says to all participants, regardless of waiver. That says athletic fees. So I think we're in good shape. I think I just missed that. So, but again, I think it's just, if we're okay with the content, then we can clean up the format. And I don't have to be repetitive. I just want to make sure we get all of the content that we want. What wasn't clear to me, and maybe Dr. Powers can answer this, is I wanted to put a little bit more information on the FIIF form and then the appeal process and then the payment plan process, like how do you sign up? So I think that's something that I can do with Mr. Voigt if everyone's comfortable with that. I don't know, Dr. Powers, if you know the answer to all that right now.
If you want to work out the wording with Jeremy, that would be fine.
Okay. So I think that we need to vote on the fees tonight. And then we can, as long as the guts of the information is here, then we'll clean it up. And again, we can share it. So if there's any final tweaks, we can add that. But I think it would be helpful to move forward to do a vote tonight on this. Dr. Price, is that an old hand? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I think the approval is really for the fees themselves. The format, text, and so forth is additional to that. I don't think it necessarily has to be part of the vote.
Absolutely.
Again, it's on the fees themselves.
Agree. Okay, so if there's no more discussion, I will make a motion to approve the fees as laid out in the draft 2021-2022 student fees document.
Second.
Okay. All right, let me do a roll call. Okay. Boyd.
Yay.
Oh, Bowman.
Yay.
Okay, thank you. Bugs.
No.
No. Serna Prado.
Yay.
Cresswell.
Yay.
Hernandez.
Yay.
Hilbrands.
Yay.
Ma. Yay. Martinsek.
Yay.
Menjivar.
I'm going to abstain.
Powers.
Yay.
Zen.
Yes.
Okay. The fees were approved, and I will work with Mr. Voigt to go over that. And if Elaine, if you want to reach out to me, that'd be great. Okay. I yield the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Point of clarification, Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Did you address me? You said if I wanted to reach out to you?
Yes, because just because I guess I'm saying, can I reach out to you to talk about the fees more?
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Number 6 is reports. And I think Dr. Powers can only stay till 7. And so I think this should work out fine with the principal report. First, do you want to go ahead, Dr. Powers?
Certainly. Thank you very much. And I also want to mention, as I talk about the senior awards convocation, that Denaya, in addition to being recognized by our LSC, was one of a relatively small number of students from the graduating class of 2021 to be identified and designated as a principal award recipient. Principal award goes to students who, from the graduating class, who best exemplify the grad values of Jones College Prep. And Denaya was definitely in the forefront in the nominations for that. And I'm very proud of her for receiving that. And again, that was based on faculty and staff nominations. We had over 100 students in the class recognized. We had a virtual ceremony. Hopefully it'll be the last time we have to do that. We normally do that in the Robin Bennett Theater. And thanks to Mr. Hilbrands, we were able to put together a very, very nice evening for those students and their families. There is a video available if anybody is interested. on our YouTube channel, which is at our website, jonescollegeprep.org. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Asian American Club Showcase. Asian American Club put on a tremendously entertaining and talented presentation last Friday evening with some traditional dance and music from China, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, as well as K-pop and Chinese pop, which act like I know what that is. But again, we had a small audience. We could only do 50 people in the auditorium, but it was a very enthusiastic group of people. And again, it is available or will be available for viewing on video. A couple of updates with regard to our senior class. The senior class appears to have their prom well organized now. It is going to be Wednesday, June the 9th, and they're going to be looking for parent chaperones, if at all possible, along with faculty and staff chaperones. It'll be from 6 to 10 o'clock. It'll be under a tent near Buckingham Fountain. We have our graduation coming up at Soldier Field on June the 13th from 1 to 3. And we're going to make sure that our seniors have a good opportunity to enjoy their prom and their exam or their graduation, because we have waived exams for seniors. I want to thank the Friends of Jones especially for their generous financial support for both the prom and graduation. The graduation was a bit more costly this year because of Soldier Field. We were very fortunate to be able to have that opportunity, and Friends of Jones came through for us tremendously. So we thank all of them very much. We're also going back to at least partially back to our in-person freshman connection. We'll have an in-person freshman connection for 1 week, July 19th through 23rd. And the class of 2024, our sophomores, rising sophomores, they missed out on an in-person freshman connection, and many of them have still not set foot in the school. Will have their own sophomore connection, July 26th through the 30th. We are starting the week after school is out with summer school. We have several different classes, 6 courses that are available to students. Most of them have been filled up, but a few of them still have seats available. We have a course in digital media and photography, guitar, those both satisfy fine arts requirements. Math 2 for students who are currently in Math 1 as freshmen and have been recommended by their faculty or by their teachers. Math 3, same such situation, is a bridge program, and we're offering that for the first time. Our computer science class is available. I believe that may be filled by now, and the civics class also has been filled by now. But those courses are available to our students during the summer. We have several teachers who are leaving us this year, and I just wanted to mention them, and that we'll be recognizing them before the end of the school year at school. Mrs. Terry in the World Languages Department is retiring at the end of this year after many years of service and very valuable service to Jones. She teaches Mandarin Chinese. Mr. Mike Borge of the Social Studies Department is relocating, as is Mrs. Steffen in the English Department, Mrs. Bingham in the Social Studies Department, and Miss Reichert from the Science Department, who are all leaving us at the end of this year. And we're going to miss them. They've been great, terrific, and very, very productive faculty members and great colleagues to work with. Upcoming events are pretty straightforward. We have the prom, as I mentioned, graduation. We are going to have a rehearsal for the students on the 10th of June. It will be remote rather than in person, as we are not able to organize an in-person graduation at Soldier Field. Our cap and gown pickup is also on the 10th and the 11th, with details to come. The graduation on the 13th. We have final exams for undergraduates, the 17th through the 22nd. And the last day for our students and the end of the 4th quarter is the 22nd of June. Last day for teachers is June 24th. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll be leaving you in just a very few minutes, but thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Powers. Do people have questions and comments? Sarah?
I don't know if this is a question for Powers or PPLC, but I had a parent approach me about the final schedule, and they were concerned about it only having like a 10-minute passing period between finals. I know that that sounds like it's sometimes happens, but not all the time. I don't know if anyone can address that.
That's what we've have done standardly for many years. We only do a small number of, we spread finals out over 4 days. It's a Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not looking at my calendar. And we do provide passing time, lunchtime, in the middle, and so forth. So it really is not a big hassle. 10 minutes is typical between the exams, and we only do 2 a day, basically.
Okay, thank you. I will pass that on.
Roberto?
Hey, so I'm not sitting well with, I want to revisit something about the public comments, and I apologize, but it's just not sitting well with me. Because one of the comments that was made was being respectful and professional, showing that respect and professionalism to the administrative leadership team. But personally, I haven't received that same level of respect from at least one of the administrative leadership members. I have received 2 emails where it has been threatening and harmful, to an email that shouldn't have been sent to a parent on this in the Jones School community. Those emails were directed to me, and they were intentionally framed in a way to harm and belittle and my role as a parent here. So when we talk about respect and professionalism, that goes both ways.
Thanks, Roberto. I think this is probably something we need to discuss offline as well. Or, if we can have non-LSC meetings to discuss things like norms. So I think people should keep that in mind as well. And I think we've suggested that before and it hasn't happened, but it may be needed going forward. Okay, any other things on principal report? I think that is I think that's all we have. So we can move on to the equity initiative report from Mr. Mitchell. If you're ready, Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize in advance for my tone. I'm kind of powering through a headache, so please don't interpret my tone for anything more than just that, okay? Would you prefer me to just read the updates, or since you guys already have the report, should I just open the floor to questions?
If you have a couple of highlights that you want to particularly give some info on, that's great.
Okay, so the report has been set up the way it's been the last few months in regards to the priorities that are listed in our culture and climate plan, and I'll update them as follows. So with priority 1, which focuses on our anti-racist training, we've due to some scheduling conflicts in April, we didn't have a session, but we had 2 in May, excuse me. One on May 12th and one on May 19th, that centered around white supremacy culture in schools and implicit bias. These 2 sessions were very informative, and we had a lot of good discussion. As I said in the report, between the 2 sessions, we strengthened our understanding of white supremacy culture and began to name ways in which it presents itself in Jones. During these sessions, we shifted from our first goal, which is focusing on a shared language, and transitioned into Goal 2, which focuses on the need to develop necessary skills for ongoing personal and organizational reflection on racial equity. The facilitator helped us navigate that personal and organized reflection. And we were beginning to have some really difficult dialogue and reflections that were shared. This discussion is priming us for our third goal, which is to adopt an ongoing accountability practice for naming and addressing white supremacy culture and systemic racism as it arises at Jones. We have our final session on June 24th, and we will meet with Davidson Consulting in June, and we're looking to finalize our topics and implementation for the fall. In August, we will also discuss the implementation of the racial equity assessment with Davis. And I shared with you all what that assessment will entail. And I also shared with you all via the link the session synopses for session 4 and 5. As it relates to our second priority around culturally responsive culturally responsive teaching, we're making some progress with that as well. It's definitely something that we're discussing per department through the ILT, and our hope is to have a plan developed, as it relates to culturally responsive teaching for the fall. Additionally, we've been working with the data from our equal opportunity schools, and we're looking to develop an outreach plan. And we see this plan as an opportunity to utilize the data from EOS to support the work that we're trying to do with with our culturally responsive teaching. To increase the number of students of color who are taking AP courses, we need to address our instructional environment and the resources we are using. As it relates to priority number 3, which focuses around student voice, our student voice committee representatives are part of our whole school safety committee, and they're helping with that. And just met with them today. They are transitioning officers, and we're setting up a plan where student voice committee and administration will meet once or twice a month to kind of keep a pulse on what's happening as far as student needs. Additionally, our peer conferencing program is moving along. They are completing their training. They're currently involved in a summit with other peer conference candidates throughout the city. And I did mention this, and you asked for clarification when I say that we're looking to fully implement the program in the fall. It is to take the training that they've done this spring and look at how we can best utilize it into the fall. There are, there's a process that we're still working on with alternatives in terms of just understanding how to best implement it. And so once we have that conversation, we'll figure out how we're going to best use it in the fall. But it is something that is going to be done. We just need to be clear about how. Last point in regards to conversations, or last point is centered around hiring practices and retaining staff. And I'll just read what I had in the report. At the last PPLC meeting, there was discussion about potentially having the hiring committee become an entity of PPLC. But regardless of whether it's a standalone committee or part of the PPLC, it's still a goal of the committee to review hiring practices that can be utilized across departments and improve efforts to retain teachers of color. There have been some internal interviews and check-ins that were done with a few teachers of color, but nothing systemic has been developed as of yet. So that is the highlights, I guess, of the report for this month. At this time, I'll entertain any questions or clarifications that you guys may have.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Mitchell? To add a little to the question that I had sent you ahead of time, Mr. Mitchell, my question about the peer conferencing program is that it seems like something that you're going to need time, like there needs to be some staff time involved, and so I'm wondering who will administer it and what the sort of needs for it are going to be. Is this something that you're going to run? It just seems like from the description, if the students are doing these sorts of activities and actually being able to resolve conflicts, there needs to be a structure in place. And it seems like that structure should be built over the summer if it's going to happen in the fall. And it seems like it would tie in to both the recommendations of the equity committee on having a restorative justice coordinator, and also the discussions that I'm assuming are happening at the whole school safety committee about those sorts of needs as well. And so that was sort of my wondering about putting it off to fall, figuring it out when we're talking about so much of this right now. And we're also going to figure out how to spend some ADF money.
So there are two staff members who are part of the sessions, and the way that this works is after every student training session, there is an additional, I guess you could call it training for the staff who would be, supporting this. And you're absolutely right in terms of structures that need to be put in place, and that is the conversation that the staff members who are working with this and leadership will have in regards to when we'll utilize peer conferencing versus some other form of I guess disciplinary procedures. So I don't know, or I don't know if I necessarily agree with the need for a restorative justice person to facilitate that. I think it is the way the program is designed is to be a partnership between the student, the faculty members who are supervising, and school leadership.
Okay, will the faculty members have time to, like in a period or something that they'll be working on it, or is it something that takes place during AC Lab, or like will they be given an extra prep or something?
Some of these questions that you're asking are things that we still need to work out. I don't have those answers at this very moment. Those are great questions, but my understanding from a time perspective, why this is, the expectation for the staff members who are participating is they volunteer, I think it's up to 2 hours a month to vote to this. And then, as one of the school leaders and the level of involvement, whatever else that needs to happen with this. You're asking great questions, and these are things that we hope to solidify with our alternative, like I guess coach, for better sake of another term, to have those answers before the year ends.
Okay, so like you'll actually know maybe even as soon as the end of June some of this?
I'll know more than I do at this meeting than I can probably share out at the July meeting, if that pleases the council.
Yeah, I think there'll be some decisions made this summer, especially around some of the extra funding that we really are expecting from federal relief dollars. So to the extent that that can play a role in it, that would be helpful. I think when I spoke to Dr. Powers about this earlier in the year, like in February, that there wouldn't be any additional resources needed for this peer conferencing program. So definitely whatever information is available on this would be very helpful for our planning as an LSC.
No problem.
Dr. Powers?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on that. We have not received any additional information on funding beyond two areas of funding, the ADF and the OST. We are proceeding with planning for the summer for OST, summer and fall, and also we'll be utilizing ADF funds, but yet been informed of any other additional funds coming our way.
Thanks. Anyone else have comments on this? Ellen?
I just had two questions, and then I also saw Roberto was mentioning in the chat the transforming bias-based harm framework, which I think Mr. Mitchell you had put in the equity report. So I was reading through that, actually right after CPS emailed it. And I think it's a really good reference doc just for like all of us to kind of see from that perspective, like what CPS's vision is here. But I had two like short questions. So I know it's currently, I believe, Ms. Lalagan and Mr. Feely who are working with Youth Alternatives. And you had said, Mr. Mitchell, that as of right now, they're like kind of volunteering a couple hours of their time each month. So kind of like the teacher question is just making sure that, I think Cassie was asking about prep time. I'm just wondering about like compensation for that, if that's part of the process or if this is like purely voluntary. I think both of those are like very feasible. I just wasn't sure exactly what it looked like right now. So I don't know if you could answer that. And then I have one more question.
It is my understanding that it is purely voluntary. I'm not aware of this program that is in other schools where there's compensation for staff, to be a part of this programming. That's one of the reasons why we did have more than one staff member. So if it ever became overwhelming, so for example, there's something happening tomorrow. Mr. Feely is going to be a part of it where Ms. Lalagan will, be, doing something else. So, we have that flexibility. And I also participate in a lot of the sessions as well. So again, we have enough staff to support the student needs, to stay connected with, the information. And again, we will revisit the element of implementation after we get a little more clarity about what it's going to look like. Because what we've been doing has been virtual. And like I said, what we've been doing is the training. And even when we first signed up or, got connected with this, that was one of the questions was, asking about various schools and how they model their implementation. So we're going to do our homework and see how other schools do it and then figure out how it's going to work best for us.
Thank you so much. And that's really good to hear about thinking about those next steps. And then the other question I had was related to the Davis Squared racial equity assessment. So sorry, I just wanted to check in. This is the same as like the audit that they had described, just to make sure that I'm clear on the language and know what's going on here. Awesome. So that's something that will begin in the fall or will it begin over the summer? I wasn't sure about the time.
We'll begin in the fall, but we'll be meeting in August to kind of, make sure that we're clear and provide them whatever they need to get started with it. Because ideally, we will be doing the assessment concurrently with our next 6 sessions.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you so much.
Roberto?
Hi, Cassie. Hi, Mr. Mitchell. So just to just provide some additional support, the LSE Equity Committee did some research and reached out to several schools, high schools. Mr. Mitchell, you mentioned that you probably are going to, I think you mentioned something to the effect that you're going to reach out or the peer conference team or someone from the school is going to reach out to other schools to see how they're implementing certain things. Some of the restorative practices, some of this transforming bias-based harm framework. But the LSE Equity Committee has done a little bit of that work, and we put together a research package that is on the share drive that explains how some of the other schools have been implementing their restorative practices.
I thank you, Mr. Menjivar, for those comments. Very much aware of the work, and thank you to the Equity Committee for the work that you all have done as it relates to researching that. I was speaking more specifically about the schools that actually use the Youth Alternatives Peer Conferencing Program. There are some schools that actually do this particular programming and are implementing this particular thing. So wanting to touch base with them about more of the specifics, like what form did they use? How do they go from an incident that occurs and to be able to address that incident to, when the student will become available. And then if we're having a student do some sort of peer mediating, when does that occur? How do, all those kinds of questions. And again, thank you for reiterating the transforming bias framework. That is a tool. I did mention it in the report. And at first glance, there are definitely some things that we'll be utilizing from it. One of the things that I mentioned in my report was the incident form is actually very similar to the one that we were looking to get approved. And after talking to the Student Voice Committee, we may move forward towards using the one provided by the district. So I just wanted to give you that point of clarification, but definitely have the information provided from the Equity Committee, and we'll be referencing that for this, and as well as some of the potential staffing suggestions for the whole school safety committee plan. Any additional questions?
Doesn't look like it. Okay, I think we can move on then. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I think the LC is really excited about all of these initiatives, so it is helpful to get this. I did not actually update the running record. That's under 7E this month. So I will do that for the next meeting since we didn't have an update last month. So thanks again. Next is the student report from Denaya.
Okay, hello. So firstly, I wanted to go over the letter that was in my student report last month. And I should have linked it in the agenda this month, but I didn't. But I just dropped the link in the chat. And so basically, this is a letter addressing student workload. It is in the context specifically of like this graduating class and the workload it is receiving now. But I did want to emphasize that it is talking about the general culture of the Jones community and selective enrollment schools as a whole, and not necessarily this individual student's experience with like the workload. And I think that what we should take from that is that like individual solutions can't be given to what are like broader problems and like problems that are maybe, you know, like symptoms of the culture of Jones. And I think this goes along really well with our sort of movement towards considering student mental health. And I think this would be like, not to like take this on as like a separate project. I think that it like integrates very well into our conversations about how to basically make the school a better environment for students. I think this goes along well with that. Yeah. Uh, and then the next point that I had was about freshman and sophomore connection. I know that it's coming up quick, and I know that it's meant to be for next month. But I have been talking about, especially this year, the need for student-facing equity training, student-facing bias training, and things like that. Not necessarily to the extent of like hiring separate consulting firm, like has been happening for the administration, but just these sorts of programs that can help to like increase the like collectiveness of the student body. So introducing new activities during freshman and sophomore connection to sort of boost that school culture, as well as the hope to like decrease instances of incidents at Jones, especially in the absence of the Eagle Leaders program, or at least the class specifically. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. But that was basically a program where people were trained on how to deal with freshmen and freshman connection, and hopefully to have some of these conversations. So in the absence of that program, I think it's important that we push to continue or continue this push for a culture that's inclusive of all of us. And then I think connecting with the lower classes is really important in doing this, because we can sow the seeds of inclusiveness and respect and togetherness early on in high school careers, in the hopes to decrease these incidents that we saw happening along the way. And again, if that can't be implemented in this specific freshman connection, I think it's something that the administration and the counselors department or whoever else is working specifically on freshman connection can really consider that upcoming. I think this is like a perfect time that isn't like in the way of instruction or anything else, where we can get to freshmen before they even enter the building, to sort of communicate with them. Sort of communicate with them, you know, what we're saying that we're aiming for at Jones as a whole. So yeah. And then also I just wanted to say thank you all so much. This is my last meeting, and I like prepare something to say, but after the gift, I don't really, it's just kind of blah. So I wanted to say thank you all so much. It really was an honor to serve on the council. I'm really proud of the work that I did, especially alongside you all, the administration and the LSC. I'm really, really happy that I got to be here. And it's more of an honor for me than it is for y'all, for me to be here. So yeah, thank you all so much. Thank you for all the well wishes and everything.
Thank you, Denia. To read a comment that Mr. Mitchell put in the chat, Eagle leaders themselves are not going away, but the class is, so they'll be part of the freshman connection.
Yeah, I would. Oh, sorry. I was
No,
just
no,
mostly
go ahead.
referencing sort of like the training that Eagle leaders went through. I know that it was a very like sort of like intense class. Like there were always like people like crying in the hallways about it and stuff like that. And I know that the training that they received sort of helped to like I guess prime them for the way that they interacted with like the freshmen. And I don't know if that sort of training is going to happen in the sense of like preparing the Eagle leaders to like have conversations around race, but they are still being trained. So cool. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, if you have any more insights about Freshman Connection, Mr. Mitchell, let us know. Dr. Powers is not here, so kind of a stand-in for the administration if you wish to comment on that.
Not at this time. There's still some moving pieces with Freshman Connection in terms of what it's going to look like in totality. But Deni's concerns as it relates to that training piece and what the Eagle Eagles will bring. That much I know will still be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I know this was originally part of the petition and ideas of the PPLCs, like in February of 2020, that there would be some like special aspect of freshman orientation for supporting students of color. And so I think that, and also this, racial equity training and introduction for all freshman students, I think is certainly something that people would like to see. I think the teachers had mentioned it, and I think as I was doing that running record, I didn't know what the status of it was, because I know there had also been some comments like not to, it's not a problem to be dumped on students of color in orientation on how to adjust to the Jones culture. And so it would just kind of, there'd be kind of a pullback from that idea. But I think some sorts of supports and also some overall supports for all students would be helpful. So I think some of this stuff we'll just have to put on a list to give Dr. Powers when he returns on the 23rd.
As far as Freshman Connection, some of the suggestions that you're mentioning, please, put those in an email or something so that we can, make sure it is incorporated while we're still planning various elements of it. Okay. By the time, yeah. So I would send that sooner rather than later.
Sounds good. I think, Denia, your student letter was also discussed at the Health and Safety Committee meeting this month. So I think Rachel will have more to say about that as well, right? Okay. Okay. Any other?
I can talk about it during my report.
Yeah. So are you next, Rachel? No, PPLC is. But yes, anything else for the student report, Denia or anyone? We're in good. Okay. PPLC report is next. Ellen Kim.
Yeah, I'll be giving the PPLC report today. So PPLC would like to start by announcing our newest members. So Katie Colby from the Performing Arts Department and Jay Koshel from the Math Department will be joining PPLC. So we look forward to continuing our work with their new energy and excitement as we look forward to next school year. We would also like to take a moment to thank the PPLC members who are stepping down at this time for their dedication and their hard work on this committee. So thank you to Kat Martin, Caitlin Miller, Michelle Tinkang, and Kate Tobin for being amazing PPLC members and members of the overall Jones teaching community. It's really been an honor to work with you and get to know you better in this context. In addition to sharing these election results from our May 24th meeting, the PPLC would also like to share two main topics of discussion that were brought up both at that staff meeting and then also our follow-up meeting with the administrative team on May 27th. And Mr. Mitchell touched on a few of these things as well. So the two main topics are first the need for a social emotional learning plan at Jones, and then also plans for an upcoming faculty listening session that will be organized and facilitated by the PPLC in order to continue conversations about white supremacy culture at Jones that started at our most recent Davis Squared professional development session. So on the note of social emotional learning, we, as PPLC, we wanted to bring up that as the LSC considers the whole school safety plan, which I know we will discuss at this meeting and then also, I believe, vote on next month. This whole school safety plan addresses and supports not only physical safety, but also emotional safety and relational trust. So the PPLC would really like to ask the LSC members to focus on prioritizing students' emotional safety and social emotional well-being in particular at this time. And CPS is providing resources that are intended for this purpose. So it's essential that these funds are used for this goal rather than to satisfy another budget need. I know we discussed that with the budget discussions earlier last month as well. And then again, additionally, depending on the LSC's decision to either retain or remove SROs at Jones, there may be additional funding available on an ongoing basis, which again is intended to be repurposed to support those three areas of whole school safety. So the PPLC is stating that there needs to be a carefully constructed, clear plan for the potential use of both of these sources of funding to support a school-wide vision for holistic school safety. And again, at a recent LSC meeting, the idea was brought up of hiring a specific social emotional learning coordinator or perhaps reassigning roles for an existing staff member to create and also coordinate social emotional learning structures at Jones. So based on PPLC discussions with staff, we would like to encourage any decisions in this area to be focused on qualifications and experience in particular with mental health and also experience with implementing social emotional learning in schools. So just again, very intentional, very focused on these needs because there's a continued need for a comprehensive social emotional learning plan that includes a coordinator role perhaps, and hiring or reassigning roles for this position without infrastructure in place may just be checking a box. And I know Mr. Menjivar brought this up earlier, but the LSC Equity Committee has done some research on comparable and also related positions at other schools that can help inform this process. And the second topic of discussion that came up at the staff PPLC meeting relates to whole school safety and the relational trust aspect. And it also relates to our ongoing anti-racism work with Davis Squared. So at our most recent professional development session, as Mr. Mitchell mentioned, we began to address and name the role that Jones specifically plays as an institution in supporting white supremacy culture. This conversation from May 19th is only the beginning of the work that we need to do as a community to build our community and trust, and teachers have identified a need to continue this conversation as a school. So as a result of conversations both with staff members and administration, the PPLC again is organizing and facilitating a listening session for school staff to be able to share their experiences with white supremacy culture at Jones with a focus on actionable next steps from school leadership and the whole staff to build a more aware, thoughtful, and actively anti-racist school community and culture. This session will occur on Wednesday, June 16th during our professional development time in the afternoon. And the administrative team was very receptive to this idea at our meeting last Thursday. So the PPLC looks forward to their presence as active listeners at this session. And so the first step that we're, as PPLC, asking school leadership to engage in is to attend the session and listen to teachers' experiences and suggestions. And then the next step would look like reflection and follow-up based on these concerns. And again, kind of as we stated with the norms earlier as well, and I think Danaya touched on this too, with a focus on validating the lived experiences that our students and staff have been bringing forward and will continue to discuss on the 16th. So the PPLC looks forward to reporting to the LSC next month about the outcomes and the measurable steps coming out of this listening session. So any questions? I know that was a lot of different topics.
Hey, Ellen. I'm sorry, Sarah, you raised your hand. You did the appropriate way.
No, go ahead. I can wait. I'm good.
No, I just wanted to update Ellen. Since the PPLC meeting had a follow-up session with Davis did inform them that we were participating in this listening session because it falls ideally right before our next session. So some of the information, some of the perhaps actionable items that come from our listening session, she may be able to integrate or at least help us facilitate, since that last session is going to be kind of our next steps to get into the fall. So just wanted you to know that not only are we planning on listening, but we plan on taking that information and working with the consultant to figure out how we can integrate, whatever comes out of that meeting for the fall.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Mr. Mitchell. That's a great call. I didn't have that on my radar as a non-administrator. Very much appreciate that you are thinking that way. Awesome. Sarah, you have a question, yeah.
My question is, who's facilitating the June 16th meeting?
So the PPLC will be facilitating. So we're using a panel of facilitators. So kind of as you've noticed with the LSC, you kind of need somebody to monitor the chat, also time keep, and also reinforce the norms. So we're going to have a similar set of norms that Kim had brought up earlier. Again, really trying to make sure that as we have difficult and challenging conversations, we're engaging with each other in a way that is not perpetuating harm, right? So does that answer your question?
Yes, and then my other question was for Mr. Mitchell. You wrote in the chat that we'll vote by June 14th, but I think you meant present by June 14th?
That is the clarification. The
Okay.
committee will present for you all to vote by that time, I guess, is the most accurate.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that later.
Yeah, Roberta, go ahead. No?
Yeah, any other comments or questions for Ellen and Kim? I would second the need for this comprehensive SEL plan. We've been asking for this for a long time. And I think we'll put that on the list for things for Dr. Powers to address or for the council to address the lack of that plan provided to us. Okay. We have a Friends of Jones report on. I think Jackie sent us, oh, that was the minutes from before. And I don't know, Raquel, if you're here to do that, I don't think so. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen any report, so.
Okay. And okay, next are committee reports. Sarah, I don't know if the budget, you guys are coming up next week, right?
We meet next Monday at 3:15 p.m. and I think we've talked a lot about the budget, so everyone gets a budget break.
And we just did the fee schedule. So, okay, Roberto, Equity Committee.
Yep, can you hear me? Great. So basically what I'm just going to read what I submitted in the form. The Equity Committee is recommending that the local school council and the Jones administration to establish a dedicated director of student engagement or restorative justice coordinator or a student ombudsman or advocate to foster a more transformative, inclusive, and equitable learning environment where students' narratives and their multicultural identities are affirmed and there's a sense of belonging. We are recommending, or the Equity Committee is recommending, that the administration and the local school council maximize all available resources to provide students what they need, what they should have had in the first place to meet their unique needs and aspirations, including a dedicated position to surface and address and advocate for students. The administration and local school council must prioritize the voices, and this is a quote from the equity framework, from the CPS equity framework. Prioritizing the voices of those with the most critical needs, end quote, and co-design strategies, policies, and practices to address and deconstruct systems of oppression. And as member JY's son presented last month, the disaggregate data by race and gender for Jones shows some clear discrepancies in student outcomes or outcomes between different student groups. this data in conjunction with the vast amount of student voice data that have presented, that have spoken at this LSE and previous LSE meetings from 2019 to present, that this data in conjunction with those student voices and their narratives and their truths affirm students' experiences. And it should guide the school to create policies and practices and programs to better understand students' experiences and to narrow the gap of opportunities and to grow, right? To grow as a school community by providing the necessary resources and support to meet our students' diverse needs and aspirations. And the Equity Committee has really worked hard to address these historical and ongoing problems at Jones. So we stand by the equity statement. We stand by the equity through language accessibility. We stand by the research to dedicate a student, a director of student engagement that can focus primarily on this work. We've heard over and over again that our principal, our assistant principal, our teachers are managing a variety of things. We've heard from students who have been demanding these things, who have been demanding transformative change. And I think it does require a dedicated position. It requires funding. It requires leadership. It requires the community, us as the LSE members, us as parents, to come together and meet the students where they are, meet their demands. So that's our recommendation. That's the committee's recommendation. And we're student focused, we're student centered. So we're hoping that we can support this work. We're hoping to support Mr. Mitchell and the work that he's been doing and providing that the research and providing the extra resources that we can offer and expertise and knowledge and experiences. The committee is made up of really wonderful and intentional individuals who care a great deal about this community, about creating a better school community. So that's my report.
Thanks, Roberto. Did we link both of those things last month? Like the timing of the committees and the special meetings has made it complicated. So especially, you know, all the work that you guys have put into this, we want to make sure that it gets shared and that we can make use of this. So now
Cassie, do you mean linked in the public folder or linked to the administration or?
On the agenda so that people can find it again. I think it's good to link it again, even if we've had it linked previously somewhere else. So JY's presentation and also the research reports. And I think this work has been very helpful. The intention, we'll talk more about this later on the agenda about the whole school safety plan, but having corresponded somewhat with Jadine Chow on this, the intention is that the LSC and the whole school safety committee will have done some back and forth, and the LSC will have given information and feedback to the whole school safety committee. So luckily we have been working you know, with the school's equity initiative led by Mr. Mitchell, with the equity committee working on this as well. We actually have had discussions as a school and as a council in depth for the last several months. So even though the whole school safety committee only started meeting more recently, I think, than our last meeting, I think there's been enough discussion overall that it's going to help inform the process and the decision there. So we've laid a lot of groundwork, both the administration and the LSC Equity Committee and the Health and Safety Committee, I think, to help us out on these things.
Cassie, I just want to mention one more thing. So
clear.
one of the,
You go. You got the floor.
I was just going to mention, so one of the things that Jones students have been asking for is this racial incident report. And Mr. Mitchell mentioned it in his equity report that that the CPS, the CPS transforming bias-based harm has included a racial incident report. So I know that Mr. Mitchell mentioned in his equity report that they were going to look at that and hopefully incorporate some of those things. But in the meantime, I do want to encourage students and adults and staff that if you are impacted or harmed in any way, that there is a form available now through CPS, which I'll drop in the link that won't go directly to Jones, but it'll go to the Office of Student and Protection. So until Jones administration has created its own incident reporting form, I think it's important for our community to know that there is a form available for them to use, and there is a department for students, for adults, for staff to contact.
Thanks, Roberto. And yes, put that link in the chat. That's helpful. And
I just have a quick question. Has anyone seen the form that exists already through CPS? And is there a reason why we wouldn't just use that form since it's approved by the legal department, obviously? And is that through the Office of Student Protections? And is there a reason why is there a reason why you wouldn't want the form to go to Jones, that you would want it to go to downtown? If for bigger incidents, like I'm trying to think, is there a place where you would have both forms, for different incidents? Again, this is all brainstorming, just.
The way my understanding, the form that Mr. Menjivar is referencing, that information goes straight to the Office of Student Protections. They will, review that information, and if it's something that is in their wheelhouse, they'll deal with it directly. If it's not, then it gets kind of kicked back down to the school level for investigations and things to occur. So I think from a timing perspective, if things came from inside in, or inside out, I should say, things could be addressed a little more readily. And then if they need to be escalated, it would be sent to Office of Student Protections. Because as it stands right now, whenever there's an incident that's had, we report it in Aspen as a school incident. If it's something at the school level where we end up, giving consequences and whatnot, then, those are the things that get put into the monthly report. So you have the incident and then what you did with the incident, and that is what gets reported. If based upon the information that's put in the report, it's something that needs to be escalated, then Office of Student Protections will jump in and investigate and work with the school administration to better address the situation. So by going to the OSP document first, it slows the process down. So there is no why this one versus that. I think it just comes down to dealing with something internally. It's easier to receive it firsthand as opposed to it being kicked down from a district level entity.
so
Does that answer your question, Sarah?
I had a question. So right now it's just like the OSP Title IX form, right? And the bias-based harm one is not yet available. Is that correct?
It is in the guide that they just sent out about a week or so ago. So I don't know how readily available it is. I just looked at it for content. It looks like a really good form to use, but I did not, honestly look at whether or not it was accessible to be used at this very moment.
Go ahead, Roberto. Or is that an old hand? Old hand. Did you have a comment on this, Raquel?
Yeah, is that
Or
okay?
yeah, go ahead.
I think that's good that Mr. Roberto, wants everyone to know the information for reporting things. But when you go directly to district, they're going to say, did you try to resolve this at school level? And I just personally, as a human being, don't think it's fair if someone had a problem with me and went and didn't even talk to me about it and just went to someone else above my head to resolve this problem. That would be very hurtful to me, and I feel like it would take longer to heal. So I've just seen people in other schools just go directly to districts, and how that negatively impacted the school and the morale and all that. And I'm not saying if people are hurt that that's not important. It is. I just wouldn't put it out there for everyone to, hey, you got a problem, go to district and tell them about it. I would just recommend, at least attempt to resolve your issues, or at least bring your issues to the school's attention. Give them a chance before you go to district to report it. That's all I
think
wanted to say.
I think actually this school has been doing the mandated OSP training this month or in the last couple of weeks. And I think students actually should be encouraged, if stuff happens, they should report it, and they shouldn't have to be deciding what the appropriate place is to report it. And clearly they can report it to an adult that they feel safe talking to. But in general, I think thinking that students should have to decide whether this is a central office issue, an issue of sex or gender based harassment or discrimination is not really something that we should put on them. So I would actually really encourage students to use that form and not think of it in that way. Violet?
Yeah, I was just gonna clarify. I think the reason that we dropped this in the chat was because we've been asking the school to create a form through the equity committee, so that people in the community can report it, like you just said, Raquel. And it was just more of an option, since we don't have that yet, if they want to. But I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, going around. And also the idea of anonymity, right? That's why we want a form created, is because some students, colleagues, peers don't necessarily want to be have their name tied to it, just for whatever reason that they suppose. So this isn't to take the place of an in-school form. It's just while we wait for the in-school form, this is another option. And also if you do want to take it to the district, you can. I know that there's other high schools that they haven't felt necessarily safe with administration. Not that that's the case here. Everybody has their thoughts, but they have had to take it to the district. So I just wanted to say that, because it's not don't fill out a form for Jones, don't talk to them about it. It's more while we wait, here's another option.
Yeah, I'm not telling people how to make decisions. I'm a person of color. I have a gay child. I have a child that's non-binary, so I am very familiar and have a lot of these injustices, close to my heart. So I'm not just saying, hey, it's no big deal, but we need to take a minute and focus and make the right decision, not a decision out of emotion. That's all I'm saying.
Thanks. Is that all for the equity committee this month? Next up is Rachel with health and safety.
Hi everyone. I am gonna link the report in the chat in case you didn't get it. I hope everyone can see it too. So just some quick updates. The Health and Safety Committee met on May 20th, and we discussed student workload in relation to the letter, and also the letter that we discussed earlier, and also just generally, there were several students on the call who had some thoughts, and in particular, Daniel Andrade, who's going to be the future LSC student rep for Jones brought up maybe bringing in a speaker to discuss like the culture of AP exams, competition, and college elitism at both selective enrollment schools and neighborhood schools. So maybe that's something we can talk about more. And also looking maybe at previous data on homework load at Jones, if that's something we can look at again. So that was kind of where the conversation headed in regards to the student workload issue. And we also walked through the whole school safety plan template that CPS has given each school to fill out. And we talked about the annual $50,000 per school resource officer that's traded in, quote unquote, that CPS is offering. There was a comment, you know, how long is this going to last? Is it an annual allotment? And, you know, I think what we landed on is with these sorts of things, you just have to kind of take the word of the district that it's going to be what they say it is. So right now it is going to be annual, as we've been told. So we don't know how long it's going to last for, but that is the alternative that has been offered, which is different from last summer, when the decision given to LSCs was, do you want to retain the officers or not? And then so the last piece is just that last Wednesday, there was a student safety forum for Jones students. And I mean, there was actually more than students who participated in the forum. I don't want to exclude the adults who are also, or non-students who are a part of the conversation. But I'm actually going to link to, and I'm really scared to do this because I know there are like statistics teachers on the call, but I linked to this qualitative data analysis that I did for the comments that students shared. And so you can see in the pie chart on that doc, if you're able to look at it, where student comments during the forum landed in relation to safety, and mental health and transparency were the topics that students gravitated toward the most. And then the differences between security staff at Jones and SROs at Jones was also discussed, as well as talking about policing and crime more generally. So that's there for your consideration as LSC members, and I'm happy to share more information about what was shared among like non-students as well. But I also just wanted to say thank you like to all of the people who participated in that forum, and also thank you to especially to the students who presented, Daniel and Trinity, and the faculty who took notes. It was just like a really collaborative, or so it seemed to me, very collaborative session. And I'm just, yeah, I'm glad that it was able to happen. So any questions for me, I'll take them.
Sarah?
I feel like I'm not following the norms. So if someone else has a question before me. 3, I didn't wait. But my question was, you know, I tried to listen in, but I was at work, so I had to leave the call. But I noticed in your data that it seemed like a very small sample size. And I'm surprised because I would think that safety is an issue that students care about deeply. And I'm not discrediting the people that attended and their voices. I think they do probably speak for a lot of the students. But I'm just wondering why, you know, what's your insight on this small sample size?
I mean, I don't want to comment on it from my own perspective. What I have been told by students is that they're really tired, and they're also kind of tired of having to say what they want or what they need, which, yeah, I can, you know, I want to like lean into that. And so maybe that's why. And, you know, it's just the time of the year, there's a lot of AP testing happening, and, you know, it's almost June. So I think all of those things were kind of factoring in. Also, conversation about safety is important, but maybe like too important. You know, I don't know what teenagers want, how they want to spend their time. But those are my like intuitions. I could be wrong.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. One thing that I think came up here and there in various things, including in the Safety and Health Committee, there will be a change in law so that mental health days are recognized officially now in the school code. So I think that will be definitely of interest from what we've heard from students this year. I think that'll be effective for the fall, but I'm not positive. Do we have any more for Rachel? Ugh, I'm always like chatting. Ellen, go ahead.
I also want to echo what Sarah said, that I'm recognizing that I'm taking up a lot of airtime. So if you haven't spoken or you have a thought, like anytime you raise your hand, I'll defer to you.
Also, I'll just say quick, if you raise your hand, like unless I'm like doing a bad job switching between my hand looking and my chat, I will call on you. So, you know, we got some little systems in place.
Awesome. I just wanted to mention regarding whole school safety, I believe tomorrow, and Mr. Mitchell, maybe correct me if I'm wrong about the timing. I think there's going to be a teacher Q&A session. And I'm like it's a 4-day week, so I'm very confused about what day is happening tomorrow. But is it at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon?
No, after rethink, I wanted it to fall right after, because tomorrow's a B day, correct? So it means, done with instruction by 2:15.
Done with 7th period ends, yeah. So it's like ACT lab.
Okay. So I guess I'll have to get clarification. It's either going to be 2:30 or 3:30. Because I had put the invite for 2:30, but I want to make sure that we're not impacting the ACT lab time. So if we get that clear, then we'll straighten it out. But yes, Q&A tomorrow.
Awesome, thank you so much. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up just in this public space so that people are aware that teacher voices are being solicited in this process. And so like, yeah, I'll check the time. I didn't actually see the calendar invite, sorry. I just saw your email, so.
It's okay.
It's been a day. And then I believe there's also a town hall, the regularly scheduled town hall tomorrow evening also is kind of focusing on this as well. So I just wanted to say that in case there are people who are tuned in on YouTube who maybe saw it in their email, but they need the memory jog on that. So I'm not sure what time that is though, I'm sorry.
6 o'clock.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Yeah, so the timing's all weird in my head, but so tomorrow afternoon, teachers are able to attend a Q&A, and then in the evening, there's the town hall for parents on whole school safety.
Go ahead, Sarah.
It was just more about the parent. Is it going to be a Google Meet where we can all have some Q&A, or is it more like a town hall where it's like presenting to us?
So it will be broadcast over YouTube. I think it'll be more of the latter. Like there is the opportunity to collect some questions through the chat from YouTube. So we will take some time to address. But we want to make sure that we are clear, because have heard some comments as it relate to either the survey and just some clarification of various things, just kind of really laying out what the whole school safety plan is, what we're working on in terms of building, in terms of the whole school safety plan, and then the discussion about SROs, what they are, what they do, that element. So half of the time will be kind of presentation and clarification, and the other half would be able to address questions. And if we're not able to address them formally in public, to create a Q&A where we can send those responses back out.
Okay, so the plan would be regardless that you would send the recording and say, here's our high level overview of what we talked about, like after tomorrow night? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, whatever we talk about tomorrow would be recorded, so yes.
But I'm saying to share out again to the families, to say we met. If you didn't get a chance here, check it out. Okay, thank you.
I had one thing on the homework discussion, Rachel. I think that is something that, like, I know other LSCs have taken up. Homework policies, CPS got rid of their homework policy at some point, I think maybe even back when it switched to the longer day. And so they didn't really make that public, but schools, then it was essentially placed in the hands of schools, and I know some LSCs have taken it up. So that is, especially with the student concerns being discussed, that might be something that we need to do. April and May are very busy with principal evaluation and budget, but I think there is more that we can talk about now that we have a little more flexibility in the next coming months. Okay, I think that concludes the health and safety, right? And we now have the textbook selection is next, 7A. I don't know if we need to, do we have like a link or a sharing link for it or something? Basically, it's been discussed a couple times. There was really like two options for the AP Human Geography textbook. And I think in the budget, we ended up sort of putting in the numbers from the Cengage one. And I think that was also the one that the school or like the Ms. Harnett said they were leaning towards as well. So I don't know if we really have any other additional information about that one. I don't know if you want to, like if Kim or Ellen do as the teacher reps want to speak to it, but or Sarah does as the budget chair. Yeah, it's not really anyone's like item. So does anyone have any comments on that? Yeah, there was a comment in the public participation that the LSC should not have a role in textbook selection, but I would refer people to the school code. We talked about this at a previous meeting. The LSC is supposed to have like at least an advisory role. And since we're approving the expenditure as well, we have that role as well. So this is not actually a legal overstepping. So with that said, I think we can, should we do this as part of the check requisitions? Because it was that, or should we just do it now? Sarah,
we're not approving the textbooks purchase. We don't have that check request, and Mr. Voigt said he would just wait until July or until we got closer. It's just like we missed the boat.
Okay. I thought that was like a July 1 thing. So, okay. In that case, we will push that off. Sorry about that. 7B, I'll update that for next month. And then 8, we do have some check requisitions. Mr. Voigt's uploaded those today. And do you want to take those away, Sarah?
Sure. And Troy, I don't know if you could share. There's 4. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting to there's pottery equipment from Blick Art Materials. There is, and that's for $4,201.98. Yeah, that's the pottery one. The quotes, they're all in the public folder. And it took me a minute, but the check requisition is first and the quote is below. So that's the first one. There is a second one for $7,725. Illinois Virtual School. It's a virtual class tuitions. I think Mr. Mitchell could probably explain that one a little bit. Or no? Okay.
No, I'm not sure what that expense is.
Okay.
I want to speak on something.
Oh, here, actually, Troy, if you could scroll down to the next page, it's the dual credit, it says. And so it will tell you which, class it was. Like, my eyes can't obviously read that. But so I think this has to do with the dual credit. Yeah, and we should not, let's not get too close for that. It's got people's names on it. Okay. The next one is parking. This is $4,030 for legacy parking. And I think my only clarifying question would be, is this the last one of this? I know this was kind of a COVID nicety maybe, or is this, and this wasn't a monthly cost that we were expecting?
I don't know what the monthly cost is. We charge a fee for parking from teachers, but I know for a fact that what we charge doesn't always cover it. So we're paying, more out of our internal accounts for it, but I don't know if this is the normal monthly, occurrence.
Troy, you know?
Yeah, so this is just because of the pandemic, and this is going to be covering, this will be the last one for this year. Typically what we do every year, we have teachers that need parking. We'll collect all their information, and then we'll do one big contract at the beginning of the year. So this time around, it's basically month to month, but this is not normal.
Thank you. And the fourth one is $3,200 for PLTW engineering participation for project Lead the Way. And then if you scroll to the next page, again, it says what that's for. Again, with the holiday and everything, Mr. Boyd didn't realize that we were meeting also it's a week earlier than normal. So he rushed these through, which was great, so we could approve them. This is the 2021-2022 school year agreement. I would think this has to do with the CTE program, but yes, everyone's nodding. Great.
Yeah, I think that we talked about it with the internal accounts budget during the budget meetings.
So, yeah, so I could, does anyone have any questions? If not, I will make a motion. I make a motion to approve the following check requisitions: $4,201.98 to Blick Art Materials, $7,725 to Illinois Virtual School, $4,030 to Legacy Parking, and $3,200 to Project Lead the Way.
Second.
Mr. Hildebrandt's second. And I'll do a roll call. Bowman?
Yay.
Boyd?
Yay.
Bugs?
Yes.
Serna Prado?
Yes.
Cresswell?
Yes.
Hildebrandts?
Yay.
Ma? Yay. Martinsek?
Yay.
Menjivar?
Yay.
Powers? Oh, sorry. Zen?
Yes.
Okay, that's everybody that's on the call. Oh, Hernandez.
Hernandez, yes.
Yeah, sorry,
No worries. Yes.
I'm gonna get this tattooed on my arm and then you're gonna leave, Mr. Hernandez. Okay, that was approved.
Okay, and I do not believe we have budget transfers or fundraisers. And the next item is the whole school safety plan update. So we've had a few updates about like the town hall coming up, and Mr. Mitchell and Rachel, do you guys want to tell us what we need to know so far, and then we'll have some discussion. One question I meant to ask after the Health and Safety Committee report, is that template available for the plan? And could we see an example of it?
Ours is still in draft form. I personally wouldn't be comfortable sharing what we have just yet.
Yeah, I just meant like, was it like a form or something that we could see what components people are supposed to put in there?
Let me see if I can find the original that Ms. Chow sent. Perhaps I can provide it to you all after the meeting rather than holding you up looking for it at this moment in time. But there, the school-wide template, In it, we have to develop a mission statement or a vision statement. There are a few priorities we have to list, and then with each priority, we have to kind of acknowledge what we're doing, or what's already being done, and what's being recommended, and then the potential budgeting element, for that. And then there is one part of the template that references the decision on your SROs, whether or not we are going to keep two, whether or not we'll have one, or whether or not we decide to not retain any of them. With this school safety plan, we have to submit a plan regardless of what our decision is with the SRO. So just to make that 100% clear. So there is a decision to be made about the SRO, but we also have to submit a plan, and it's the committee's job to provide a recommendation for the safety plan, as well as, this is why we're collecting the data, enough information on the decision that we're going to make for the SRO. Now, the decision around the SRO programming can impact the school safety plan in the fact that, as it's already been alluded to, the funding that can come. If we choose to keep one SRO, we would receive, in essence, about $50,000 that we can apply to our school safety plan, whether that's for position, programming, or the like. If we decide to keep, none of the SROs, then we have $100,000 to, again, apply for, that can be applied in the plan for programming and or staffing. So that's kind of, what is in the template, the decisions that have to be made, and that's it in a nutshell.
I also just have one thing to add. This is something that I asked Jadine Chow, just like generally for all LSCs, because I was curious. It's just like the procedure for what it's going to look like for this LSC to consider the plan. And so I just asked her, say that the whole school safety committee at a school presents a plan that the LSC, considers and maybe disapproves with some aspects of the plan, approves other aspects of the plan. What does that look like? Because I doubt that, at like every single school in CPS, it's going to be a one-to-one, yes, 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 all around. And so what does the district want to happen, or what does the district envision that process to look like? And so Jadine Chow told me that it's not really an amendment situation, or that's not what the district is envisioning. I know that LSCs have used and can use like amendment processes for voting on things, such as like resolutions and bylaws, things like this. But that's not so that's not what the plan is for the whole school safety plan. And I think that's important to know going in. So basically, there needs to be like an ongoing conversation between the whole school safety committee and the LSC, so that we can like come together and have some sort of consensus on the plan. And I just wanted to get ahead of that, just in case, so that we're not scrambling for answers, when it comes time to vote. I also wanted to ask, so I know that the district wants us to present a plan by June 14th, but it's my understanding we don't need to have a vote until July 14th. And I wanted to put that out there because in case we do want to take a little bit more time to construct the plans, I just wanted to add that.
Thanks for that clarification, Rachel. The July 14th date, I guess, was a little unclear to me because I have heard that as like I think that the kind of absolute deadline from the district. So I think that the 14th is really, like you kind of are suggesting, more of a check-in and where we are to have, some level of conversation, to give us some wiggle room to have, I guess, a full-fledged decision by that July 14th time.
Go ahead, Rachel.
I have a few questions that I want to make sure that if before I ask my questions, that there's not somebody else that would like to go before
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a few questions. I guess it sounds like there are two, we'll be voting on two things. One vote will be whether to retain the SROs, whether it's one, both, or we decide not to retain any SROs. So that'll be one vote. And then there'll be a second vote on the Jones Whole School Safety Plan based on whether we have one SRO or both SROs or none. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, you're just about there. The safety plan is going to be like we have to approve that, right? The determination about the SRO, whatever we choose to do with it, can impact the plan because the funding that we're going to need for the plan can be supported by that decision from the SRO. So you're absolutely correct that we have to make that decision about the SRO. That is one piece of it. But then the committee will be making recommendations for this plan. Okay. And so from our recommendations, whether, again, like I said, whether it's staffing or whether it's some level of programming, there are dollar amounts that, potentially will be tied into that. And so when we present this recommendation to you, it'll be this whole plan that maybe, depending on what our priorities are, will, have a projected dollar amount at the bottom of it. And so, you'll listen to our recommendations and, we'll have that dialogue on what those recommendations will be for the best plan that we can put in place. But by July 14th, we have to have, to your point, basically two things decided. Our SRO programming, what we're going to do with it, and then our safety plan.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Mitchell. I guess now, so when we've been talking about the SRO vote and we've been talking about this dedicated position and the SELs, the social coordinator that could focus on the social emotional learning, Dr. Powers has mentioned that we could use some of that funding for that type of role. So in my view, it sounds like we need to make a vote on the SRO so we can determine whether those funds will be available, whether it's 50,000, 100,000, and then that would help the whole school safety committee to design a plan that would include this dedicated position, whether we're going to fund this dedicated position or role. At least that's how I'm kind of navigating this vote or this situation, I should say. And then I guess my other question, and then that'll be it for me tonight. I'm wondering for the town hall session tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. Is the whole safety committee co-facilitating? Rachel, are you and Mr. Mitchell going to be co-facilitating that discussion because you're part of that? Or I'm trying to figure out who will be facilitating that discussion and whether the whole school safety committee will be involved. The people, the members that are part of that committee, will they be involved in that town hall session to either not necessarily present, but to provide some clarity or context or insight?
Well, I wanted to just add, I guess the district does not want these votes to be separate. I just want to put that out there. The district wants the SRO consideration to be a part of the whole school safety plan. So that's what the district said. I just want to be clear about what the district is asking LSCs to do, which is why I tried to ask like in late April about what happens if there's parts of the plan, for example, the SRO consideration, that there may be disagreement or discussion on. So that is something this council can talk about more, but I do want to clarify that it's not, that's what the district is saying. I'm gonna leave it at that. That's not my like personal opinion or anything. So yeah, that's what Jadine Chow told us, but and yeah, that's all I want to say right now.
Jose, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, so seems to me like CPS is always finding a way so that they have an influence on the decision that the LSE makes so that the SROs stay in schools. And I think this is the way that they're playing with us. Safety plan at the same time that we make a decision whether or not to keep the SROs. So now let's say we have a safe, so in that case, we would need two safety plans, right? One so that in case that we approve the SROs to stay, and the other one, an alternative plan in case the LSE decides not to keep the SROs. So is this what the plan is from CPS? It doesn't make sense. To me, it does not make sense. So when we work on the budget, we were supposed to align it with the CIWP, and we basically didn't do that. And to me, this is doing the same thing again. It doesn't make sense.
I just want to say, based on a safety session that was held with Jadine Chow, Jose, you're not the only parent who thinks that. And I think this is the first time that the district is doing this sort of thing. And this is in response to last summer giving this decision to LSCs with no sort of plan in place. And so I think I want to share that. I think that that's something that a lot of parents have brought up.
Thank you for sharing that. Sarah, you want to go ahead?
Yes, Sarah.
Thank you. I sent an email to Rachel and I think she forwarded it to her committee, but we have, we're a council that really likes a lot of information, a lot of data. And I had asked for a bunch of data, but that only matters if it's something you're looking at, right? And so I think seeing the template, a blank template, so we know that what is CPS actually asking you for? I might be asking for entrance and exit procedures and restorative justice program, and I'm asking for, what do the security guards do, or where are they assigned, and how do students flow through the building, and what are entrance and exit procedures for visitors. Those are things that I think are important to safety. But what does CPS think in the template? So yes, Mr. Mitchell, if you could find that and share that, that would help me to prepare, because otherwise in the kind of a vacuum of knowledge, I start to freak out, and then, my brain is thinking of, oh, well, this should be in our CIWP. If safety and security is really important, we should amend our CIWP to make that here and have a year-long committee that's looking at this information. So I think me having some context of what the district is expecting will help. I wanted to speak a little bit to the point about money. So the ADF funds were about $264,500 approximately. And if we had talked about using that money to pay for one of our APs at $170,000, as an expense, that's, not their salary. And that would leave us with $94,000. So I think my recommendation of the budget committee is to really, really think about those numbers, because I think as far as whole school safety, and the reason I'm talking about the ADF funds is, and as Ellen mentioned in her PPLC report, is that's the social emotional plan, and even in Rachel's statistical analysis shows that safety, when they think of safety, they don't automatically think of SROs. So my fear of this, it's a whole school safety plan. It's not just a keep SRO or not keep SRO. And so as much data as you can get to me beforehand will be great. And then for Rachel, you seem to know about the voting. Is this going to be like a standard LSC vote where we just need a majority approval? Are we supposed to have consensus? Do you have any information about the voting? And then just to remind everyone that CPS was fine with telling all schools that they would have no SROs this spring. So that's just a reminder. Thank you.
That is a good question. I can follow up with Jadine Chow about the majority or if it needs to be a unanimous vote. So thank you, Sarah.
I think it's last year it was a simple majority, and it was not like a 7 out of, it wasn't something you need 7 or 8, and it really was it's just another motion, and I none of this is actually even, from what I can tell, it's not even set in what the board voted on, what the Board of Ed voted on. So I think it's CPS can give us guidance on this, but I think it's really, like it's not positions that we have control over, other than that they've given us control over it. So we can vote on the positions of SROs. And then the other votes are things that we presumably would vote on otherwise, like spending $100,000 or spending $50,000 or creating a new position. So I think that those are votes that already have guidelines for LLCs and how they function. So, to the extent that we will then also take a vote on a whole school safety plan, to send that to CPS and say, this is what we voted on that. I think that's fine, but I think this is really our council to run how we wish on this. So, Mr. Mitchell?
I'm sorry, I was working on what Sarah was asking in terms of providing you the template. I was, making a copy and deleting so you could just see the actual template to provide you what you're looking for. I heard you making a statement, but are you asking a question of the committee? I mean, I heard your feedback as it relates to what the LSC's responsibility will be in regards, but is there a question embedded there that I missed?
No, I just saw your hand. I thought you had an old hand.
No, I guess that's an old hand.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
old hand. You're not on the spot. Jose?
Yeah. As we all know, students are coming back after the summer, right? And when they do, they need a place where they can feel safe, not intimidated. With all of this work regarding social and emotional, and also the safety and all of this different work that different people are working on, it doesn't make sense for me to not to make a decision on the SROs just because CPS wants to make things difficult and mess things up for the different schools. We shouldn't fall for that. We should make a decision on the SROs. I suggest that we have a meeting, special meeting next week, and just decide whether or not we're keeping the SROs. And if we aren't, then the safety plan is going to follow that decision. A lot of times CPS make decisions that don't make sense. And then they just blame it on the principals. Then they just blame it on the parents. Then they just blame it on the LSCs. So I suggest that we just have a meeting next week so that the students don't feel ignored. They have spoken up and it takes guts to do that for the students. Let's make a decision. Let's have a meeting next week. Thank you.
Rachel?
I just wanted to say, I think students have spoken up, Jose, you're right. And students have said various things, and parents have said various things. And so it's just my position. I hear what you're saying, but I think the duties of this council is to listen to the school community. And, you know, we all have an agenda. We are all coming from we are political subjects, right? I don't want to discredit that, but I also think we are political subjects who can hear from other subjects. And we have heard a lot. There's a lot of data already to look at. But I think we're, you know, we sent out a survey to parents and to students. And I have expressed, like, it does feel a little bit rushed, this process, but there is an opportunity for community engagement. And so we should try to engage as many people as possible before we just make a decision. I agree wholeheartedly that CPS is very much confusing us by taking out SROs for the remainder of the school year. And I told JD Chow this myself. If that's a decision that we're supposed to make, then why is the district just making that unilaterally now? She took that comment, so I've expressed that. But I wanted to reiterate, like, we have the ability to hear from people who are going to be impacted by this. As students have spoken. I'm just in favor of having a conversation that's continuing about this. So that's what I wanted to say.
If I could add on to Rachel's comments, because we've had this conversation in our committee, we are definitely keeping student input in the forefront. So we are collecting data, but we are also listening to what was said in the past as it relates to SROs, as it relates to school safety, and it does kind of seem like the district is putting us in between a rock and a hard place. But there are some positives that can be pulled from this. With the idea of the entire safety plan, they are suggesting that we look at safety more than just the physical safety, which is what the SROs seem to represent. This is an opportunity for us to better address the mental health needs, the social emotional concerns of our students. And so, developing a plan that emphasizes that. There in the template is an opportunity for us to list as a school, what do we prioritize? What do we think is important? And it just in the 2 short meetings that we've had as a committee, we've kind of agreed on definitely leaning more towards the social emotional and the emotional health and safety of students more so than the physical. I'm not saying we disregard the physical safety, but we're definitely looking at ways that we can bolster the whole. So I want to make sure that we share that information with you all as well. With the surveys that we put out right now, we have about 80 or so students that responded to the survey, and a little more than 100 parents who have responded to the survey thus far. And the survey that was out there, yeah, there's some flaws to it, but it is giving us some idea of where people's thought processes are as it relates to school safety. And so we're gonna process that data and continue to move in the direction that we're looking at. In our last meeting, we did kind of talk about various scenarios, because you're right. If we're going to do this right, we in essence kind of have to do 2 to 3 different plans, to take in contingency whether or not we keep 1 SRO and the funding that comes with that, whether or not we keep 0 SROs, or if we decide to keep 2, because even if that was the will of the people, that we have 2 SROs, how do we implement this plan, the rest of the support? So we're taking all those things into consideration. Just that we have to do this in a short time frame. So I just wanted to add that piece to it.
So I think in terms of the council figuring out what to do next, will the template be filled out by next week, and will all the gathering of data and input be complete by next week as well? Are there more plans besides the town hall surveys, and what's the time frame on those?
I won't know till we meet on Thursday. Like to see what feedback we get from the session tomorrow. Give the rest of the committee an opportunity to review some of the preliminary data that we have right now, because I can tell you just from the 82 responses from the students, most of them feel safe without an SRO. But there are talks about an additional security guard. There are people who are interested in maybe some cameras. But on the flip side, a lot of the parent support is having at least 1 SRO available. But then there are some comments that go both extremes. police officers shouldn't be in school, and then those, because of the uptick in I guess crime in the community, feel that they won't send their kid to Jones if they didn't have an SRO present. So we have both extremes. We're gonna wade through all of that and make the best informed decisions that we can.
Yeah, so I think my question was what the timeline do you think is on wading through that? And you won't know that till Thursday the 3rd. You'll have an idea about the timeline on that?
My hopes is that after our meeting, we'll have a better idea of where we stand in terms of the template, what we filled in, our current suggestions to be able to share out.
Kim, do you want to?
I just want to add, sorry, super quick. I really think we should wait to talk about it until we're able to get the translated survey out to parents and send the recording that's translated of the town hall tomorrow before we really consider all parent perspectives, because we are going to be able to get everything translated. I think it's important to consider that data too.
Kim, go ahead.
I was just going to say that PPLC would like at some time to be able to survey staff. We haven't done any surveying staff as far as like an SR. If we're going to do a special meeting for an SRO vote, we want to make sure we're voting along staff lines, and I want to put that out there that we'll need to survey them. Now I could ask for a quick turnaround, but just so the council's aware, PPLC is not going to speak for teachers. We are going to represent their voice.
Ellen, do you have some? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had one clarifying question, I think, which is, it sounds like no matter what, we need to meet before the 14th. Is that accurate? Because we need the whole school safety plan presented to us, or is this something that could happen not in a meeting, but via email? I guess I'm just a little confused by how that presentation works. So that's one question.
I think it seems like it's partly determined by the whole school safety committee. If they really think they just can't put a template together for the LSC to evaluate with a vote by the 14th, then they can ask CPS for an extension. The point was to have it done early in June, and the original timeline was supposed to start like the work, all of this, early April. So I guess CPS's preference is that we vote sooner. My preference would be to vote sooner, because if we're going to do something like create a position, and it's supposed to be helping students when they come back into the building, and school starts earlier this year, putting this off till mid-July seems not like a great way to plan anything. Probably the most realistic meeting date before the 14th is the 10th. We don't have to call the special meeting on the 10th until the 12th. So I think, sorry, the 8th. Yikes. So we have essentially a week to decide whether we can have that special meeting. This will probably be determined, can all the surveying be done, and a summing up of it, and a template provided for us to vote on by the 10th. So we have a little window here where that can be determined. And I think that's somewhat up in the air. If, Kim and Ellen, you can weigh in on the time you need for the teacher survey. That would be helpful. And it doesn't sound like the safety committee can give us too much detail about how much longer they think they're going to need. But that would also be helpful as well. I think we should be able to decide by next Monday whether we can have the vote on the 10th. And yeah, I think I know CPS has tried to make this extremely complicated, but the truth is, we voted on, it took us, 2 very long meetings to determine a budget of $12 million plus and how to do that stuff. We did 3 budget meetings. But, this is $100,000 and 2 positions traded in maybe for 1 or something. So it's not as complex as it may be being made out to be, especially because the actual details of other aspects surrounding it, besides the money and the SROs, can be worked on longer term. So, okay.
Sorry, that was
Yeah.
one question I had. I apologize for having two. So that question was about timing. So it sounds like there's a couple of factors that we're kind of weighing in terms of when it would make the most sense to call that meeting and have that vote. And then the second question was, I think Mr. Mitchell, you had mentioned the whole school safety committee, and I think Rachel, you said you're on it. I was just wondering, like in the, I wanted to check that there's buy-in for like presence of all stakeholders. So I know that there's at least one teacher I'm aware of on two. Great. I just spoke to one on the whole school safety committee. I'm not sure if there's a counselor presence as well. Administration definitely represented. I know there's students and I believe parents as well. So I just wanted to check in about that because it sounds like that's like an update point we could get.
Discussion with the counseling department, but not one person full-fledged on the committee, but definitely in communication with the counseling department. There's at least one parent, as I mentioned, 2 teachers. There have been 3 students that have had some level of involvement thus far with the committee as well, and Rachel and myself.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Roberto?
So I think I want to be respectful of everyone here, including our members that are going to be leaving us soon, Danaya and Jose. I would be in favor of having a special meeting to discuss where we are, engage how what the data represent, engage each member. And if we can vote that day, great. If we can't, then at least we're moving forward. That would be my suggestion. Is I think it's helpful to have dates, and that'll help us move forward. Because I do agree with Cassie that waiting until July 1st or July 14th, and I'm not suggesting that that's anyone representing that, but waiting until then and then using those funds, and when school's going to start earlier, a week earlier, it's my concern. So if we could start like what we're doing today, if we can continue this dialogue, that would be great. And we'll have some data. It sounds like we'll have some data. Sounds like the PPLC will have, the faculty and staff will have their own town hall session tomorrow, and they'll be able to maybe put together a survey and get some initial data. I think the parent survey ends on Thursday, closes on Thursday or Wednesday. So we'll have some of that data, and then we can work through that. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think people should basically pencil in 6 p.m. on the 10th. And I don't know. I mean, I would be happy to schedule it right now. You can cancel special meetings or whatever. We have plenty of time to make that possible, a special meeting on the 10th. But I think it would be good if we are aiming at that day in terms of collecting input and, you know, having us see the template would help as well. But I think, you know, especially if it sounded at the beginning of the discussion that Mr. Mitchell thought we'd, you know, was pretty able that we'd have a plan by the 14th. So, you know, I think Roberto is right that we can certainly have at least an initial discussion. You know, we're probably going to get more people wanting to speak on it as well. So I don't think it hurts to have more than one meeting in terms of public participation as well, if we had to. But if, you know, if we hold a vote and people are ready to vote, then we could do that. So that is, you know, I don't know if we don't really have to like hold a vote on whether to schedule a meeting. If there's enough people available that we're gonna have quorum next Thursday, I think let's just say we're gonna do a special meeting at on Thursday. Roberto, do you have a new thing that's old hand? And then Sarah?
Just quickly for Rachel, the translation that you're planning to do, that would just be like a transcript?
No, it would be a record. I basically have asked interpreters if they could watch the live stream and then record themselves translating, and then send me that audio file. And so for Spanish translation, I've got confirmation that that can happen. Not yet for the Mandarin translation.
Yeah, so I think let's plan for a meeting on the 10th where we could hold a vote on the plan if the plan is ready. And we, in general, would like the plan to be ready because we think the longer the time between deciding things and the beginning of school next year, the better. It will also help with determining, some of these other things about EDF funding, I think. And yeah, so, but we can keep on checking in, like after your meeting on Thursday, check in with the whole school safety committee. And also updates on, how the translation and these other surveys are going will help. So yeah, I think let's put on the calendar though, a special meeting on the 10th. Okay, the AE, we recognize Denia. I'd also like to mention Jose will be leaving us soon as a parent rep. I think Jose has continuously been on an LSC like since his daughter was in kindergarten. So that is a very long LSC career. And I think this ends his career as an LSC parent rep, but I'm sure it won't end his LSC community rep position career. So just a thank you and a shout out. He's been super valuable as a source of expertise for me. And I'm sure others have benefited in the same way. Related to that, parent will have a vacancy. So that is something that we will need to fill as a council. I think Dr. Powers or Troy got that posted already. We put it in the mailing list. So people should keep that in mind. And we will put that on the agenda for July. And Jose, do you want to say anything?
Well, I just want to thank you for your kind words and also thank the entire LSE for your cooperation and especially the understanding and support that you gave me while I was hospitalized very recently. So yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, really our next meeting will be this special meeting, and then we should keep in mind that the July meeting that's scheduled right now is the organizational meeting. And so we may actually have a separate July meeting, then that organizational meeting. That's something that I think we can discuss ongoing. Sarah?
And just to remind everyone that that organizational meeting needs to happen between July 1st and July 14th. And so maybe on Thursday, have your dates in mind. I'm assuming people would want to do it after the 4th of July, but I don't want to make that assumption, but just bring your calendars.
You're muted.
No new speakers popped up in the first 10 minutes. So I think we are good. We have no new business. And so we can adjourn. Oh, wait, Troy's hands up. Don't adjourn.
Sorry, I just want to kind of reiterate, I sent everyone an email earlier today. As a reminder, I need those documentations, but it's the statement of economic interests by 3 o'clock on June 8th. So if you have not completed those, please send those to me as soon as you can. That's it.
And Troy, you sent those to everyone, even if we did like, I think I did mine, but I still
Yeah,
got
I
your
sent it
email.
to everyone.
Okay.
It was just easier that way.
Related to that, everyone needs to have completed training sessions by July 11th. Yeah. Okay. Well, we will be in touch about this whole school safety committee and plan. And this is the real adjournment. Okay. Good night.